Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is yet another album review. And this time I am reviewing the 2016 rap hip hop album, The Life of Pablo by Kanye West. Now, before I get around to sharing my thoughts on this album, I want to give a special shout out to Shine for requesting this album review. And if there's another album review, film review, TV show review, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, before I really delve deeper into this album, I want to make some things clear. I am by no means a rap expert, a rap critic, uh, and in all honesty, I'm not even that familiar with Kanye West or his work. I've heard a few songs by him over the years, but this is honestly the first time I've listened to an entire album by Kanye, and it's actually pretty good. And I'm not really a big fan of rap or hip hop in general. Like I'm much more into other genres of music, but this was interesting. I think there was some tracks that I wasn't really that big on, but there were a lot of tracks in this that I either liked or I could at least appreciate when it comes to how the samples were utilized or how things were ultimately put together. So, this is an album that features, I think it's like 20 20 tracks or something like that. It's a really long album. Um, yeah, 20 tracks. And some of the tracks to me are a bit unnecessary or just kind of filler, but that's what how a lot of these albums are nowadays. They're like really long and have a lot of filler tracks. The first track is called Ultra Light Beam, and this one has like a pretty long length. It's like 5 minutes and 20 seconds, and it kind of feels like that. Uh, it's not a bad start to the album. It's definitely got a very gospel feel to it, an overall vibe, which is the entire point of it. And it's got some catchy beats and some catchy hooks, but it's not something that I really like to listen to a lot. Like it's one of those tracks where it's like, yeah, I can appreciate it. I can appreciate a lot of the work that went into it. Appreciate Kanye's contributions, um, as well as other people that were involved with it, like Chance the Rapper, Kurt Franklin, The Dream, Kelly Price. Um, but it's not really one of my favorites from this album. But it's fine for what it is. For a opener for the album to kind of give you a taste of what you're gonna get with this album. Uh, Track 2 is honestly kind of more the same, Father Stretch My Hands Part 1, but it's a lot shorter, so it doesn't, lag as much as Ultralight Beam. Part 2, which I think is Part 2 of Father Stretch My Hands, is track 3. So those two tracks, they're not tremendous to me personally. Um, uh, Father Stretch My Hands by Kanye featuring vocals by Kid Cudi and Kelly Price, and part two with Designer and Caroline Shaw. Um, there is some intriguing remixes and different takes on some samples that are used for these tracks, but they're also tracks that I wouldn't consider to be some of my personal favorites from this album. So it starts off and I wouldn't say rough, but it definitely starts out without a track that I really was into until track 4, which is Famous. Um, yeah, I know the controversy about Famous. It's all about Taylor Swift and that whole bit where Kanye got on stage and it was all like, "Oh, excuse me, Beyonce had the best video of all time," and upstage Taylor. And a lot of this is about him talking about how he made that bitch famous. But it's a good song. It's a good track. Like it's got some good instrumental work. Kanye's rapping and flow is really good. The other people that were a part of it also do some good work. And the samples are really good. Featuring "Do What You Gotta Do" by Jimmy Webb, Bam Bam, and I think there's also some other stuff that's also sampled there. And the vocals by Rihanna and Swiss Beats, I also feel were really solid. They definitely fit well with the overall track. And Kanye is definitely being snarky here, but I think Kanye in a lot of ways is at his best when he is snarky, and kind of self-aware, at least from what I've heard from him. So yeah, I legitimately enjoyed that track, and I mean, there's a reason why a lot of people still remember that track, especially the bit, I made that bitch famous. um the, next track after Famous is Feedback. I really wasn't into this one, and I didn't really like tracks 6 either, which is called Lowlights. Feedback, it's another filler track for me. It's like 2 minutes and 27 seconds. A lot of it is, yeah, there's samples from something called Talag, by Gugosh, and the sampling is kind of okay for me, but I'm just not really into the overall flow of the track and the lyrics, and it doesn't really do that much for me. Um, but I'd rather listen to Feedback than track 6, Lowlights, because that's just nothing but a sample remix. That's all it is. Or it's just some vocals from somebody else. Like Kanye, I don't even know if he's really featured that much at all on it. Um, So yeah, I'm not really big on that particular track. Like I would probably say that's one of my least favorites. Containing samples of "So Alive" by Sandy Rivera, performed by the Kings of Tomorrow. Um, after track 6 is track 7, which is Highlights. Another one that's not one of my favorites, but I liked it all right. Honestly, a lot of it has to do with the instrumental and the way that Kanye and the producers handled the sample. I felt that was honestly pretty cool when it comes to how a lot of that stuff was utilized. I guess it doesn't seem like there is a lot of samples, so a lot of it's original tracks. I'm so used to Kanye using samples, but a lot of it's just original instrumental work, and I like it. I think it's actually pretty cool. And I don't mind the vocals by Young Thug, The Dream, El DeBarge, Kelly Price. So it's not a track that I find to be terrific, but I don't think it's a low light either. Track 8 is called Freestyle 4. It's another one I'm not super big on. It's a freestyle. And it's not a bad freestyle, it's just not a freestyle that I feel is, like, for the ages or anything. It's just kind of an average, uh, adequate freestyle with Kanye. Um, the next track is not really a track, it's just the whole bit where Kanye is self-aware and talking about how people miss the old Kanye, and so he just trolls people. I know he got a lot of praise for that, but it's not really a track that has much staying power beyond haha Kanye trolled people. Track 10, Waves. This is a contender for my favorite track of the album, along with Wolves. This is like the first track that I heard where I was like, okay, I really like this. Uh, and this is a track that almost wasn't even included in the album because it needed a lot of extra polishing and some extra work. And the work paid off, if you ask me. I think it's a wonderful track, featuring some really good sampling, elements from the Fantastic Freaks of the Dixie, uh, um, by the Fantastic Freaks, and vocals by Vic Mensa. Well, actually, no, that's Wolves. I'm sorry. I really like Wolves too, so I had that on my mind. But yeah, Chris Brown, Kid Cudi. I'm not really super big Chris Brown fan, but I felt he did some good work on this track. So did Kanye, and it's another track that has a really a good instrumental and some good hooks, and the lyrics are good, and it's just a it's also a nice track to listen to. Like it's a track that actually has some genuine replay value. Um, After Waves is track 11, which is very different when it comes to the vibe. FML, Fuck My Life. And this is another one that I actually liked. A lot of it is because of just the overall vibe and atmosphere and mood of it. It's very moody, it's very dark, which I mean, it's called Fuck My Life. And it's about depression and I think it's like one of the most effective tracks I've heard that really do a good job in terms of just evoking a certain feel, and that it is something that coincides with depression and having these feelings and these thoughts of FML. And I think it's just a very unearthly, eerie track. It really is, but it's very memorable in that way. It includes some interpretations of "Hit" by Section 25, and um, it features vocals by The Weeknd and Caroline Shaw, and The Weeknd's contributions are great. So yeah, I liked FML. Um, it's a kind of track that I'm not going to listen to a ton because it puts me in a pretty dark place. But it's still a well put together, well produced track. Track 12 is Real Friends. Another one I didn't mind. If I was a bit long, but I still didn't mind this track. Had some good catchy hooks. The lyrics weren't that awful. They were pretty well written for the most part. Um, this one features some more interpretations of another song, "Friends" by Houdini, which I felt was a fun way to remix and retool that particular song into "Real Friends." And I feel Ty Dolla Sign, his extra vocals, you know, his verses, they were a good contribution, a good addition to the track as well. Um, Track 13 is Wolves, which I go back and forth between Waves and Wolves as my favorites from this album. Wolves, I really really like. I think it's a fantastic track. The instrumental in particular, like the sampling, Walking Dub by Sugar Minot, and the rapping by Kanye, as well as the vocals by Vic Mensa, Sia, and Caroline Shaw, especially Sia. And it's just a really catchy instrumental. Like the main instrumental that's used as the backing instrumental for this song is just really catchy and gets stuck in your head. Do 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 do, or something along those lines. Like I'm not really it's like a really intriguing like whistle with some kind of layering or something. It's just a very unique sounding track, and it's got some really good work by Sia and Kanye and other people. Um Now, Sia wasn't originally on the original version. It was Frank Ocean, and that's what track 14 is. It's Frank Ocean's vocals that are just made into their own track, which is nice, to hear what Frank would have done or what Frank did. But at the same time, it's very much filler, and so is track 15, Silver Surfer Intermission. It's another joke bit that doesn't have much replay value, at least to me personally. And then track 16 is 30 hours. This track kind of feels like 30 hours. Another one of my least favorites. It's just it's just meandering. That's really the best way to sum up that track. It's got background vocals by Andre Benjamin. It features a lot of samples. That's the other thing. There's so many samples in this one. So that's another reason why it's pretty meandering to me. It's got samples from Answers Me by Arthur Russell, Hot in Here by Nelly, L by Nelly, Joy by Isaac Hayes. Just so many samples, and it got to the point where they started to run together a little bit, or it just I prefer, at least from what I've heard from Kanye so far, I prefer when he's not like trying to do nothing but samples, or the majority of the track is samples. Like I want to see some actual other contributions from Kanye or other artists. Um, and I know Kanye did a lot for that one too, but maybe somebody else. I don't know. It's just a lot about that track just didn't really work that well for me. Track 17 I liked more, despite it being really long and having, a decent amount of samples in it as well. But it was just it told a fun story. It was over the top, and he actually name drops RoboCop again, which I mean, I'm OCP, so like whenever that happens, it's definitely something that I definitely get a kick out of. But I thought I liked the overall vibe and the flow of the song too. No More Parties in LA. And I felt the samples were utilized a little bit better here. Give Me My Love by Johnny Watson, Susie Thunder Tussy by Walter Jr. Morrison, Mighty Healthy by Ghostface Killa, Stand Up and Shout About Love by Larry Graham Jr. Um, so that's definitely one of the highlights of the album for me is No More Parties in LA. And of course, she had a lot of people that were on that track as well. Just looking it up here. If actually, there weren't a lot of people. It was just Kendrick Lamar. But Kendrick Lamar is so good that it almost seems like he's doing the work of multiple people. Um, then you have track 19, which is I would actually track 18. I'm sorry, I almost skipped talking about track 18 because I hated it so much. I hate this track. This track is legitimately like bad. This is an awful track. Like this is hard to listen to. I did not like it. It was just 3 minutes and 20 seconds of honestly mostly torture. It was very superficial, and I know a lot of these tracks are, but this was like to another level. Kanye's beef with Nike. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. And the guest rapper, the guy that he had on there, which was oh god, what was oh yeah, Charlie Heat. He was the one that did all the work. This is the Charlie Heat version, which is on the album. Uh Yeah, I got pretty heated listening to this guy. I hated his flow. I just did not like this track at all. Fade, track 19. It's another one I'm not really a big fan of. It's just a sample remix. That's really all that track is. I mean, it contains samples of I Know I'm Losing You by Rare Earth. Another song, I Know I'm Losing You by The Undisputed Truth. Mystery of Love by Mr. Fingers, Deep Inside by Hard Drive, samples of I Get Lifted by I think yeah, what was yeah, I Get Lifted by Barbara Tucker and Rock the Boat, by Aaliyah. Um, it's just one of those tracks that I feel is just the epitome of filler. Like you listen to once, you don't really want to listen to it again. And also kind of sounds dated. It kind of sounds like a track you would hear in like a club in the 90s. Um Track 20, the final track is Saint Pablo. Um this is more of a track that connects with the opening track of the album and I feel it fits with it rather well. Um but like I just was not a massive fan of it. I think a lot of it has to do with its length, but there were still things about it that I did appreciate and I did like. I like the instrumentals. I like the way you use some of the samples in it. Um, Where I'm From by Jay Z, and I liked a lot of the other vocals in it by Sampha, and I liked Kanye's contributions to it for the most part. He had some good flow in that particular track. So I think it ends on a decent note. I think there's a lot of filler tracks here. Then there's a lot of tracks that just didn't even need to be there or could have been cut out entirely, and you really wouldn't have missed much. But for the most part, for an experimental hip hop rap album that has a lot of unique styling and instrumental work and sampling and a lot of star power, this is definitely an album that is worth listening to, even if you're not even really a big fan of this genre or even of Kanye West himself. But anyway, thank you for watching my thoughts on The Life of Pablo by Kanye West. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.